When an argument hits a total dead end, you are often facing a mind that has physically lost the ability to process logic. Psychology reveals that a low-functioning mind is defined by a series of destructive daily habits. These patterns of thought determine your cognitive capacity far more than your education level or the size of your vocabulary. These habits build an invisible trap. Over time, they rewire the brain to stay stuck in a cycle of stagnation, hiding behind a mask of intense emotion and false confidence. If these subtle signs go ignored, the mind follows a cognitive blueprint that actively prevents further growth. The downward spiral into a stagnant mind begins as a defensive maneuver known as intellectual defensiveness. Curiosity drives a healthy intellect, but a fixed mindset perceives learning and new perspectives as direct threats to the ego. To protect itself, the brain begins to actively avoid any situation that requires deep exploration. Closing the door on curiosity leads directly to the illusion of certainty. This explains why individuals with stagnant minds often speak with the most volume on complex topics they barely understand. This chart illustrates the metacognitive gap, the inability to think about one's own thinking. Without it, a person lacks the tools to recognize logic flaws. True intelligence relies on intelligent doubt, remaining inquisitive when you lack answers. By rejecting doubt, the brain successfully traps itself. It creates a false reality where it never has to face the discomfort of being wrong. Maintaining total certainty in a complex world is exhausting. To keep the illusion alive, the brain begins to conserve energy by simplifying its environment. This leads to splitting. The mind categorizes ideas and people into extreme binaries. Everything becomes entirely perfect or complete garbage. Processing nuance and gray areas requires high mental energy. A lazy brain takes a shortcut, shrinking reality into these extreme binaries to avoid the work of critical analysis. As the world shrinks into extremes, the mind enters the phase of emotional reasoning, where objective logic shuts down. Highly reactive people confuse their immediate feelings with absolute facts. They allow their emotional state to dictate their reality, bypassing the need for evidence or objective truth. By reducing the world to binaries and outsourcing logic to feelings, the mind becomes completely insulated from objective reality. Eventually, the unavoidable consequences of a lazy mind manifest as a series of repeated failures in the real world. Because the stagnant mind cannot look inward, it must find a way to explain these failures without taking responsibility. It adopts a victim complex. This reflects an external locus of control. The individual fundamentally believes that external forces, their boss, their parents, or the system, are responsible for every outcome in their life. Adopting the victim complex provides a psychological exit ramp. It removes the heavy cognitive effort required for self-reflection and personal accountability. The stagnation cycle is self-sealing. The lower a person's reasoning ability falls, the less likely they are to see the flaws that keep them trapped. Intelligence exists as a fluid set of patterns. These habits of thought define our current capacity, and they are subject to change when we recognize them. Dismantling the habits of blame, the habit of absolute certainty, and emotional reasoning stops the cycle of stagnation. This creates the friction necessary for the brain to re-engage with the difficult work of learning. Challenge yourself to practice intelligent doubt today. Evaluate which of these habits you rely on to simplify your own reality. Understanding the raw psychology of your own mind is the only way to break the spiral and force your brain to start growing again.